Welcome to the CIS054 C and C++ programming class. Here is a list of topics covered in the video. We have the course objectives, contact information class, information enrolling, class presentation, hardware and software, and the course assignments. Also included are expectations from both me and you, adding and dropping classes, and just a little on using Canvas to submit your work. Another video titled Course Navigation covers more on Canvas. The final topics in the video are feedback, grading, late penalties, and academic dishonesty. Canvas is the learning management system, LMS, that San Jose City College is using to present the class online. All assignments, links to videos, class discussions, and submissions of student work are done using Canvas. The C language was developed by the programmers and for the programmers to update and make Unix run on more than one computer system. C++ is an extension of the C language. It provides the tools for creating objects for object-oriented programming, OOP. This class covers both the C and C++ languages until we get into objects and object-oriented programming. Both languages were developed at Bell Labs, a division of AT&T. Everything that is in the C language is also in C++. However, C++ typically handles input and output and character strings using objects. Where there's a difference between C and C++, both topics will be covered in a separate presentation. You can choose either language for your work in this class. Time commitment. This class is an introduction to software engineering. The C, C++, and Java programming courses provide the foundation for your future success in any computer science program. This course transfers directly to the University of California and the CSU system, including San Jose State University. If you study hard, learn the concepts in the course, and gain a working knowledge through the lab assignments, you should be well prepared for success in your future courses. This course should not be too difficult to understand if you had a good understanding of at least high school algebra. There's not a lot of math in the course, but the ability to solve programming problems can be similar to solving word problems in math. I never would have made it through college if I didn't have a few easy courses. I passed a couple by just showing up, listening to what the professor said, and was able to repeat it. I have even taught some courses that did not take too much effort on the part of students. This is not one of those classes. There is definitely a lot of work in this class. It is important that you do not fall behind because it can be difficult to catch up, especially if you take the class in a compressed format such as a summer school. So, how is the time requirement computed for a college course? There is an expectation that students will spend 3 hours of work for each college unit in a regular semester course. This evaluates to either 2 hours of homework for each hour of lecture or 3 hours working on lab assignments. A 3-unit course can have a combination of lecture plus homework and lab assignments to make a total of 9 hours per week of student work. Are you prepared to spend 9 hours each week for a regular semester class, either on-campus class or online? The amount of work should be the same regardless of whether the class is offered on campus or online. I am not trying to scare anybody with the volume of work, but you need to be prepared for the amount of time required and committed to following through. If you have vacation plans or your schedule is full with other important obligations, you may want to consider enrolling in the course at another time. Your online classes need to be just as important as your on-campus classes. If you're taking the class in the summer, plan on a lot more time each week. A summer class compresses a full semester of work into 6 weeks. You get done 3 times faster, but you need to work 3 times as hard. Plan on spending about 27 hours per week on a 3-unit course. The class starts off fairly easy. I will give you a simple program and all of the code for the program. All you need to do is type it in and make it work. What I am looking for in this first assignment is for you to get used to working with a software development system. You could be using Visual Studio or NetBeans on the PC or possibly Xcode on the Mac. Although there would be small differences in the code, it does not really matter which type of computer you're using when doing C or C++ programs. We will then cover the basics of the language, such as data types, variables, literals, constants, input and output, math operators and logical operators, functions and subroutines. After the basics, we cover pointers, references, string manipulation, and file access. We also cover a good introduction to objects that are used in object-oriented programming. I don't want to scare anybody away from my class, but let's try to think realistic about taking a class that's fully online. Everything is homework. The reading assignments are homework. The quizzes are homework. The lab assignments are homework. Submitting assignments is homework. The group discussions are homework. Most of the students sign up for an online course looking forward to being able to do everything at home and not fight the traffic, the parking, racing to the classroom to find the best seat, and then spend the first part of the class listening for the name during roll call. A few students survive some classes by doing no homework at all. For them, taking an online class can be a giant cultural shock. By the time they realize what they need to do for an online class, they are already behind. So, start the class by reading everything that is provided, watching the videos, and doing the work. Don't let yourself fall behind. You also need to treat your online classes just as important as the ones you may take on campus. It makes me sad when I hear students say, I didn't do the work in your class because I have other classes. My name is Dan McElroy. I graduated with a degree in electronic engineering technology and worked in the computer industry for over 15 years and higher education for over 20 years. I started off as an electronics engineer designing circuits for computer systems and moved to computer programming. I developed software for computer networks, transaction control systems, positioning controls for lasers, medical test equipment, automotive test equipment, video games, personal data assistance, and many others. I have also spent several years as a technical writer documenting hardware and software projects. I started teaching electronics and computer technology at West Valley College and San Jose City College. I was hired as a full-time instructor at SJCC in 1985 in the electronics department and later transferred into computer information systems, teaching introductory courses, programming courses, and Unix. I truly enjoy programming and hope to share that enthusiasm with you. I want to meet with each student during the first 2 weeks of class using the Zoom teleconferencing service. Zoom is similar to Skype. I will let you know my available times to meet. Zoom is a great way to meet online. Later, you can use Zoom to share your screen if you're having a difficult time with a lab assignment. A Zoom meeting is a much more efficient way to solve a programming problem rather than just using email. I can be reached either through my campus email address, dan.mcelroy@sjcc.edu, or the Canvas email. I prefer that you use the campus email. Make sure that you place on the subject line of the email the class name and a brief discussion of the email's topic instead of just using an old subject line from a previous email. If you have an email filter for spam, etc., it is your responsibility to make sure that you are receiving the emails that I send you. All correspondence through Canvas uses the email address that you have listed with the Admissions and Records Office. This includes any messages that I send to the class as well as scores for each assignment. It is important that you update your email address if it changes. You can update your email address by clicking the Click Here message on the purple rectangle when you go to the My Web page at myweb.sjecc.edu. Why do you want to take programming? Is this just some required course? Or maybe you want to see what programming is like. Maybe you want to make this as a career goal. In any case, I want to make this class interesting to you, and I hope you'll end up completing the full class even if you decide that you never want to touch a program again. At least you'll know what programming is like. Why do you want to take a programming class? Well, programming is a lot different from some of the other classes you may take. Some of the classes you may have to read some information, analyze it, figure out what is a little bit different, and then maybe write an essay on it. Well, programming, you really have to dig and figure out what's going on. Sometimes it's just a little semicolon or a space that makes the program not work. Part of programming is to figure out what all these little symbols mean. Programming can be a very rewarding career if this is what you like to do. It can also be very frustrating because missing a little period or missing a space or whatever and nothing works, and you have to look at all the stuff and look at all the stuff over and over again, and you can't figure it out. Ask for help and somebody else comes over. It's right there. Oh man, it got me. Why didn't I see that? Somebody else found that error in a couple seconds when I looked at it for hours. My goal is to make programming interesting to you. And now, some information about the class. Starting with the course syllabus, information about the books and computers on campus. How is the class presented? I start the class off with information about how to use the integrated development environment, both for Windows and Macintosh. The way I present the class is by first giving you a program that all you have to do is type it in and make it work. The purpose of this exercise is to learn how to use the integrated development environment, also known as IDE. It is important that you understand exactly how the program works because later on you are going to need to develop similar programs, and you can go back and look at those programs to see how can I take that program and modify it to do something similar but different. As the class progresses, I'll give a project definition, and then using the English words, you're going to have to figure out how to write a program to do what is requested. Sometimes you may have to do a little extra digging because maybe I won't give you all the information. You may have to dig and look up stuff on the internet to find things out or get help from people. So, what is the reward? I got something to work that I did myself. Yay! The syllabus has the textbook and a lot of other information on it. It has the instructor contact, how to submit your assignments, the attendance requirements, late penalties, how stuff is graded, course outline, assignment due dates, and college-wide important dates. I highly recommend that you save a copy of the syllabus. You may need it to get credit if you transfer to another school. You need access to a computer that is connected to the internet so that you can view the videos, download the assignments, and submit them. You also need a computer to develop programs in C or C++. This could be a PC using Microsoft Visual Studio or some other development system, or a Macintosh with Xcode, or maybe even Linux with GCC and LLDB or GDB. The CIS Open Labs have all the software needed to complete the course. If you choose to work at home, you will need one of the following software tools. Select a C++ compiler for software development. Choose one. Microsoft Visual Studio, C++ compiler and development system. The Community Edition is available for free for CIS students from the Microsoft Imagine website. Apple Macintosh, Xcode C++ compiler and development system. Download for free from apple.com. Linux, GCC or G++ compiler, and either the LLDB or GDB debugger. These tools are included with Linux. You can choose any C++ compiler. Identify the compiler that you used on your lab report. There are several online compilers that can be used with just a web browser to write and test many of the smaller lab assignments during the first part of the course. The online compilers provide a web form for entering a program. The program is then compiled at the web server somewhere in the world, and then the program is run using your web browser for console input and output. For example, when using jdoodle.com, enter your program, set the mode to interactive, and execute the program. Console outputs and inputs appear at the bottom of the screen. If you choose to use one of the online compilers during the first part of the class, it is very important that you also use that time to obtain access to a computer that has a full compiler and debugger. You will need these tools to complete many of the later assignments, including the final project. You also need a word processing program to complete your assignments. You can use Microsoft Word, or you could use Pages on the Mac. You could use Writer from OpenOffice that's available both on the Mac and PC and Linux, or even Microsoft Works. You also need a spreadsheet program such as Microsoft Excel, Apple Numbers, or OpenOffice Calc for at least one of the lab projects. Most of the reading assignments are presented using the PDF format. Get a free Adobe Reader to read PDF files. Get adobe.com/reader/. When you complete your lab reports, you need to submit the documents in either .doc, .docx, or .pdf format. What can you expect from me? Well-prepared lessons and lab assignments, fair and honest assessment of your work, timely responses to your submissions and emails. Your emails submitted through Canvas should be answered within 24 hours or 48 hours on weekends. Your assignments should be graded within 1 week of when you submit them. Although this is not from me, the college provides online tutoring services from NetTutor. You can get to this free service by clicking the NetTutor link on the left side of Canvas screen. Several students have found this service useful. What I expect from you. The first thing, are you ready for an online course? You will be working on your own most of the time. Let's be honest, a totally online course is all homework. To be successful, you need to set aside time each week to complete the work without skipping over material just to push out a lab project in the minimum time possible. You need to keep up with the assignments. Seek help from the instructor and other students to help understand the programming projects. Do your own work on the assignments and submit your own work. You need to understand the concepts in this course to be successful in future programming courses. I realize that there are things that come up in people's lives, and sometimes a class needs to take a back seat to other priorities. If there is some reason you are not able to continue the class, it is your responsibility to drop the class by one of the drop dates. Don't get a bad or terrible grade by just fading away. I am required to submit a grade you personally earned through your submitted work. I've heard there's a new term for withdrawing from a personal relationship without communicating. It's called ghosting. Sometimes people do it to avoid offending the other person. I won't be offended if you drop the course. But please remember, grades appear on your transcript for a very long time. Once you have shown some commitment to the class by attending, participating in quizzes, labs, or other homework, I assume that you wish to be in the class. It is your responsibility to drop the class if you do not wish to continue. However, I may drop you if it appears you are not participating in the class by submitting regular coursework. If you do not complete the course and do not officially drop through the admissions office and are not dropped by the instructor, you will receive a grade based on your completed work. A note of caution: if you are receiving financial aid, veterans benefits, or are an international student, consult the appropriate office to determine any effects dropping a course will have on your status both here and at other colleges and universities. If you are dropped in the middle of the semester, it is difficult and a lot of paperwork to get back in. A lot of people, all the way from the instructor, the dean, the vice president of academic affairs, and then the registration office, all need to get involved. Sometimes it takes a week, maybe even 2 weeks to get back into the class, and you may be way behind by then. Make sure that you submit your work on a regular basis and maintain regular participation. If you drop a class very early in the semester, no mark appears on your transcript. If you drop in the middle of the semester, a W shows up on your transcript. You can't drop a class if the semester is almost over. The instructor is required to submit a letter grade, A, B, C, D, or F. Refer to the syllabus or the college's academic calendar for the exact drop dates. I have no control over these dates, and I do not have the ability to change or extend them. The current academic calendar is located online at www.sjcc.edu/academics/academic-calendar. This class does not have a prerequisite listed, but it has several advisories that you should be aware of if you wish to take the class. A prerequisite is something that is required before you can sign up for a class. Prerequisites are in place either for safety reasons or to ensure that you are prepared so that you can complete the class successfully. You can still enroll in the class if you do not meet the advisory levels, but you may have a difficult time with the class. The class has 3 advisories: reading, writing, and math. Advisory Reading Level 3. You need to be able to identify the thesis statement in college materials, make complex inferences, summarize and paraphrase information, use a college-level vocabulary, etc. The advisory is in place because the textbooks for computer programming typically are not written in simplified English. It is important to be able to read the textbooks that present complex ideas. Advisory Writing Level 3. You need to have the ability to write a well-organized 5-paragraph essay. Although most lab reports will not contain an essay requirement, you need to be able to write lab reports at a college level. Advisory Writing Math 2. Algebra 1 skills. You need to be able to work with equations and variables. Some of the lab exercise may involve either complex or imaginary numbers. Here are some important dates. Check the schedule of classes for the important dates for the semester. Pay special attention to the date to drop a class with no W so that nothing will show up on your transcript, or the date to drop with a W. Here's something important. San Jose City College does not automatically give a refund if you drop a class at the beginning of a semester. You must apply for the refund before the date to drop with no W. Otherwise, you don't get any money back. And once again, a great big welcome to the class. I really enjoy programming and I enjoy teaching. I look forward to working with you during the class and hope the class will not only be enjoyable, but also educational and intellectually challenging. You can always reach me by email at dan.mcelroy@sjcc.edu. Bye-bye. See you around.